بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. We start the lesson until we get more of the people attending with some of the introduction into what we go inshallah to cover in these lessons. We start with the Dua al-Faraj for the history and appearance of Imam Sahib al-Asri wal-Zaman, Ajallah Ta'ala Farajahu al-Sharif. May Allah hasten his reappearance. عليه أفضل الصلاة والسلام. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كل وليك الحجة بن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا يا رب الحسين بحق الحسين اشفي صدر الحسين بظهور الحجة. Inshallah, in these lessons we'll be covering the topic of Akhlaq, Islamic ethics, and the importance of Islamic ethics in our daily lives. If you look at what's happening today in this time, there is a dark time, that what we see of some people losing the grip, they are losing their position as they can't cope with what is happening. For different reasons, some people are panicking. They don't know what to do in these situations. Some people, they losing their touch of humanity. And for different reasons, sometimes you find them to fight over toilet paper, fight over some basic essentials. And here you can see that it is important for a person to have the highest of the morals, ethics. Even when it's time of pandemic, it is a time of hardship like now, it's a dark time. It is very important for a person to understand that we as human beings, we have moralities, we have standards, and of course, we were given many guidelines of how to live our daily lives, and that is very important. That's very important to this point that Islam comes to the understanding, and Islam covers every aspect of this, that is Islamic ethics. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Prophet of Islam, that is the best of the human beings. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about this Prophet in the Quran al-Kareem, وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ. And indeed, you are of a great moral character. And that is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was of the greatest moral character. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a teacher. He is not only a prophet, but he puts for us guidelines that we learn for every step of the way, that he was a prophet who also was khairul bashar, who was of the highest morality, of the highest akhlaq. وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells about the Prophet that he had the highest of the character. That is one. And in another verse, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has been told by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, فَبِمَا رَحْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ لِنْتَ لَهُمْ وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَظًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَانْفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ فَاعْفُ عَنْهُمْ وَاسْتَغْفِرْ لَهُمْ وَشَاوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ فَإِذَا عَزَمْتَ فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُتَوَكِّلِينَ. The phrase here, وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَظًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ. So by mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, O Muhammad, the verse says, you were lenient with them. And if you had been rude in speech and harsh in heart they would have this abandoned from about you. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if he had a different approach with the people, and we're talking about the pre-Islamic era, in Islam, the pre-Islamic era, that was the time of Jahiliyyah, the ignorant time. Rasulullah had to deal with people that buried their own daughters alive. And yet Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had the best of the morals with them. Whenever a person comes in into the mosque, Rasulullah greets them, he welcomes them, regardless of their past, because now this is a new age. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam wants to welcome them into Islam. And that was his approach. وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ. You had the best of the morals. And the Prophet ﷺ, regardless of their past, regardless of their religion, some of them were atheists, polytheists, Rasulullah welcomes them into the mosque, and he greets them and he sits with them, to the point they are so much mesmerized by Rasulullah's character, they say the Shahadatain. And that's what is the whole aim of this. If you look at different types of people in history, throughout the history, you find that we have people, they lost this way of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that is the approach of having the best of akhlaq, the moral. It is hard, and it needs practice. It doesn't just come overnight that we say, I want to have a good manner tomorrow. It doesn't work like that. It takes time, and it takes a bit of practice throughout weeks, months, sometimes years, for a person to perfect that morality, that akhlaq, that ethics. So it is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi afdalu salati wassalam, Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba, Imam al-Hussein, and they are Ahl al-Bayt alayhim afdalu salati wassalam, that have the highest of akhlaq. So we don't have to go far to look for a person that can teach us. They have the best of akhlaq. They are right there. And if you look at the different various books that we have, for example, Bahar al-Anwar of Allam al-Majlisi, Usul al-Kafi for Sheikh al-Kulayni, and so on and so forth, you find that they put for us a set of rules and guidelines of how to live our life. For example, and that is an example of Imam Zayn al-Abidin, Ali ibn al-Hussein alayhi afdalu salati wassalam, with Risalat al-Huquq, the Charter of Rights, the 51 rights that the Imam mentions. And inshallah, in the subsequent lessons, I will mention some of those rights. The Imam mentions 51 rights of a person when he lives this life. He must follow these 51 rights. حق الأم, حق الأب, and the Imam goes on and on. وأما حق عينك, وأما حق لسانك. The Imam عليه أفضل الصلاة والسلام mentions 51 rights of you knowing that. Don't think that you live a life that you are alone and that is it, that you want to be treated perfectly. Everyone wants to be treated perfectly, and you must be one to be respected, but you don't want to respect other people. If you look in this time and age, there is no one-way street. There is always you treating people with great respect, they treat you with respect, and that is the reality of life. So this is very important, that we have this understanding that Ahl al-Bayt alayhim afdalu salati wassalam, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, they set for us a guideline, set of rules. And if you want to see into it in detail, they teach us from the moment that we wake up to the moment that we sleep, how to live our life, a perfect life. And that is what is important, especially in this time and age that we live now in 2020. and we are in a pandemic. Also, we have time that we are at home now in self-isolation, that we can reflect. And that is opportunity that we have now that we are at home. How many episodes can a person watch on Netflix, or videos can he watch on YouTube? In the end of the day, he will come back to himself and think to himself that what is going to happen, to me, or the future of what is going to be happening in the world. So he will come back eventually to himself. How am I going to be a better person? This is a time of reflection, and we have kickstarted the reflection before Shahr Ramadan al-Mubarak, before Shahr Muharram al-Haram. So this is what it is, that we must understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us a nudge here and there for us to come back to our senses. And this is the rahmah of Rabbul Alameen, the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is one of the good parts of this pandemic, that we can see the positive side of it. And that is a positive side, that we can reflect, sit down for a moment and think, this is my weaknesses, I must work on them and become a better person. Now, we start with the book of Akhlaq wal Adab al-Islamiyya. There is a version of it on the web. That is a PDF version. If you write down Akhlaq wal Adab al-Islamiyya, it is a book that was compiled by Hayat Muhammad al-Amin. It is a very wonderful book. This is the one I have here. It's a very thick book. You can see how detailed we have it. This is Akhlaq wal Adab al-Islamiyya. It is manners, and it is the etiquettes of Islam. This is how much we have. Akhlaq wal Adab al-Islamiyya. Inshallah, I will post the name of it and a link to the PDF file of it. If you go through the book, you can see we have different various topics that this book goes through. Akhlaq is manners, ethics, and adab is what is etiquettes. If you look at the different etiquettes in different countries and in different cultures, everyone has a different way of behaving. For example, you find in Japan, the way they eat is different than the way we eat in Middle East. This is one part of it. Also, when it comes for what's happening now, and I like to connect of what's happening in modern life, and especially now, because what we see in different countries, in Australia, in United States, in Europe, people are looking for hand sanitizers. Why? Because they want to always be clean. If you look back at Islam, 1,400 years ago, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told mankind, told the Muslims, told people to, perform wudu 5 times, or let's say 3 times a day. So this is how Islam is detailed when it comes to hygienes, to etiquettes, how to eat. For example, one of the parts of eating when you are sitting with other people and you are sharing a meal is that you do not stare at them, for example. And inshallah, we'll go into detail of what this is. So this is what we have. This is what Islam is all about. It is, of course, we believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have usul ad-din, we have furu' ad-din, but in the Islam, we also have the etiquettes, the adab. So if you look at this book, it's called Akhlaq wal Adab al-Islamiyya by Hayat Muhammad al-Amin. It was printed back in 2006, and you can see my version of the book is it's a bit messed up because of the time I've been reading it, but it's a wonderful book. If you can see the PDF file online, it goes through different types of lessons. For example, Akhlaq al-Islamiyya, Tazkiyatun Nafs, تأثير التربية على الأخلاق, الدين والإيمان, and it goes on and on to different types of problems that we have in society and how to fix that problem. As I said before, we do have weaknesses. Every one of us has weaknesses. Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salatu said in his famous narration in his hadith that you are not a Shia if you do not judge yourself every night before you sleep. That every night you come and see what you did during the day and the mistakes that you committed, the sins that you committed, and then like a person who goes to an accountant and every year he has to lodge his tax return. Sometimes the ATO or the IRS, they come back to you and they audit you. When they audit a person, they go through every receipt and they go through every bank statement. We should do the same with our a'mal before we go to the next life. Before we go to the next life, we should go through every and each one of them. Now, how important is akhlaq? Now, if you look that a person, the first time you see them, the first time you say your greetings to them, the first time you shake their hands, well, not now, but later on, inshallah, when everything goes back to normal, when you shake their hands and the first time you say their salam to them, that is when you look at that person, especially if that is the first time, and you can see, okay, is that person a good person? Is he approachable or not? And then later on, of course, when you start talking with one another and you have a back and forth. So what we have here, we have a person who was in a market and he saw two vendors and they were selling, one was selling honey and the other was selling vinegar. And this is an example for you just to understand the importance of this. One was selling vinegar and the other one was selling honey. And he saw the one that was selling honey, he had no customers. And the one that was selling vinegar, he had a very long line of people standing in line and trying to buy vinegar. So he thought to himself, why is this? So he went to the person who was selling honey and he approached him. And when he approached him, he asked him for the price of the jar of honey that was in front of them. And as soon as he asked him, the person who was selling honey, he was so rude, he was so aggressive, that he started to scream at him that this is the price of it, and take it or leave it. And he asked him about the price, that this is a bit pricey, can you give me some discount? To which the person said, you know what, it takes me years and months for me to prepare this and bring it here, and now you're asking me for a discount? How dare you for you to stand here and ask me for something like that? You have the audacity to ask me to give you some discount. So he left and he went to the one who was selling vinegar. When he approached him and he asked him for the vinegar, the person, when he saw him to be the first time customer, he told him, well, this bottle of vinegar costs that much. And since you are my customer and it looks like you are a new customer, I'm willing to give you one that is cheaper than the other. And they're all the same, but I like to give you some good discount. And I like to give you, on top of that, if you want another bottle of vinegar. And he came to him to say to him, how is your family? Where are you from? He had a very nice conversation with him. So this person who was buying from the person who was selling vinegar, he came to his senses and understood that, look at the different approach. One was aggressive and the other one was wonderful with his approach, and he got me to buy more vinegar. And even though vinegar is way different than honey, yet I like to spend more time with the one who's selling honey. So this is how important it is, brothers and sisters, especially now in this time and age, when you see people fighting for one roll of toilet paper. Unfortunately, sadly, you see people, they are so much in conflict with one another because this kind of pandemic came to them and they cannot approach it rightfully. So this book is a wonderful book. And I like to start today with the topic of anger. And this is a very important topic, al-ghadab. The wonderful approach of this book is that for every topic that it goes through, it tells you of a description, a slight description of what this is all about, and then some ahadith, some روايات, of course, and some verses from the Quran al-Karim. So al-ghadab, ghadab is anger, and that is استجابة لانفعال تتميز بالميل إلى الاعتداء. Ghadab is anger, a person who is furious, who is comes out of his boundaries and he starts to shout, and he is so much in anger that he says many things that if you tell him later on that this is what you said, it's not right. So غضب is what is anger. والغضب شعلة من نار وارتفاع حرارة الإنسان المختفضة داخله فيفور الدم ويغلي ويرتفع حتى يحمر وجهه وعيونه. Inshallah, I will translate every one of them. So, what is this غضب? غضب is anger. And anger, we all been through it. You know, sometimes a person says one thing and we say another thing, and that leads for us to become so furious and so angry that we start to say many things that we don't mean it. If later on we, become, calmer and we approach the person and we look at it differently. For example, when it says about a person who becomes angry with his wife, and this is what's happening unfortunately today, that because you are in lockdown, in quarantine, you are in home, most of the time, and she says something, you say something, and unfortunately that leads for you to fight with one another, and that is very unfortunate. But what does Islam say about that? We come to this, of course, we are human beings, we make mistakes, we fall into many errors. So what does Islam say when you become angry? It says, when you become angry, if you're standing, sit down. If you're sitting down, stand up. Another hadith says, if you're sitting down, lie down. Get up and perform wudu. If you can go for a walk outside, and so on and so forth. Why? You're changing the whole atmosphere for you to calm down. Those moments, brothers and sisters, those sometimes milliseconds can determine your life of what will happen later. Sometimes a person becomes angry and that leads to domestic violence, unfortunately. Sadly, that leads for you to abuse the other person. And that is very, very unfortunate, but it happens. So, min athar al-ghadab, some of the athar of ghadab is that one, تغيير اللون. When a person becomes angry, you see their face becomes red. Unfortunately, they start to their face and their tone of voice changes. So تغيير اللون, the change of the face becomes red. Number two, شدة الرجفة في الأطراف. Number two is what? Number two is they start to shake. They're furious. They start to shake to a point that you can see their shoulders and their hands and their feet. They jump up and down. If you take a video of that person and later on show it to them when they are calm, when he looks at himself, he or she, they're ashamed of what they're doing, because this is not them. This is a status that comes to them. And as Imam Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salatu wasalam says, the anger is like fire. Either you turn it off or you make it a wider fire. And unfortunately, sometimes a person, he just makes it bigger and bigger and bigger. So number three, and inshallah I will mention all of those with translation. Number three is خروج الأفعال عن الترتيب والنظام. Number three is what? خروج الأفعال عن الترتيب والنظام. That his actions are not in line. He is not normal anymore. He's not normal. She's not normal. Don't think a person who's angry, they are thinking right. They're insane now. They're in a status of insanity. This is what it is. And the hadith says that when a person becomes angry, Shaitan Iblis al-Abalisa is sitting on his shoulder, and what he's doing, he's kicking him and is saying to him, this is when I control you and I steer you to right or left. And it's an example of a person when he goes horseback riding, inshallah, after all this lockdown and quarantine. You go to horseback riding. If you've been there, you know that when you go there and when you sit on a horse, the first time they tell you how to steer the horse right and left. They tell you, well, if you want the horse to go right, you have to pull the leash to the right and then to the left. And if you want the horse to stop, you have to pull it all the way back because of that leash that is around the mouth of the horse for the horse to stop. And this is what you're doing. That anger, you're leading it to right or left, the direction of right or left. If you leave it to go like a horse is a wild horse and it starts to run with top speed to the point that you cannot stop it, what happens there is that you lose control. You lose control to the point that some of the horses that are wild horses, even if there is a valley, they fall right into it. They fall right into it. This is what happens with a person who is angry. If they cannot control it, hold down to the leash and pull it all the way back and stop right there. You know, this is not the moment for me to go insane, even though I'm in a lockdown and I watched all the videos on YouTube and many of the TV shows on Netflix, and I have nothing to do. Get up and recite some sort of Quran Kareem. Change the atmosphere, because we live in that time. We do. We are in a different test every day. So ghadab is one of the big problems that we face every day. So that was number 3. That is خروج الأفعال عن الترتيب والنظام. Number 4, اضطراب الحركة والكلام. اضطراب الحركة والكلام is that he starts to, stutter with his words. He starts to say many insane, phrases, or he says many things that he doesn't mean it. He doesn't mean it. Of the curse language, of the abusive language, but he doesn't mean it. In reality, if you sit down with him and you say to him, calm down for a second, did you mean what you said just a moment ago? No, he doesn't mean it. But because he was in a status of anger, he lost the control. He lost the control, and this is what happened. اضطراب الحركة والكلام. حركة والكلام. Haraka is that the action he does. Sometimes he becomes angry and he comes and hits the other person, unfortunately. Well, kalam is a word. That's why if you see some kids when they go to shopping centers and they want a toy, if you don't give it to them, they go in a status of tantrum, and sometimes they fall to the ground and they're screaming. They banging their hands and their heads to the ground. Buy me this toy. But if you give it a moment or two, and this is what every psychologist says, give it a moment or two, they will come down, and then deal with them the way you deal with your child normally. But if you want to deal with that child at that moment, in that status, you cannot deal with them. As one person said, that my child, he goes in a status of tantrum to the point that he holds his breath and he falls to the ground and he faints. So, this is different types of people, and of course we are, in the end of the day, we go into phases of tantrum, but it's not for a toy. It's for something that is, unfortunately, we think of it as more important. But if you look at it, it's not that important, that needs that much of anger and that much of stress and anxiety and depression. It doesn't need that much. In the end of the day, brothers and sisters, everything has a solution. Everything has a solution. So that is number 4. Number 5, إحمرار العين وخروج الزبادي من الفم. So إحمرار العين, the eyes become red. So if you draw a picture of this, and this is your homework if you want to do it, draw a picture of a person who has these characteristics. He has this kind of a form. So let's go through it again. There are 5. Number 1, تغيير اللون, they become red. So if you're drawing it, a red person, شدة الرجفة في الأطراف, shaking the hands and their arms up and down, like a child that goes into tantrum. Number three, خروج الأفعال عن الترتيب والنظام. So he's not in control of his af'al, of his actions anymore, and he's jumping up and down to the point that he goes into another status, and that is اضطراب الحركة والكلام. اضطراب الحركة والكلام, he starts to stutter, or he says many abusive language. And number five, احمرار العين وخروج الزبادي من الفم. احمرار العين, his eyes become red and he starts to foam from his mouth. If you draw a person like that, better yet, when you draw the person, think of that person to be you, you know, and look at it for a moment. This is you when you are angry. You want to become a person in that anger, in that status, having that kind of characteristics? Of course not. Ahlul Bayt alayhim afdhalu salatu wassalam, they teach us all of this. When you become angry, how to deal with anger. When you become furious, how to deal with it. And this is the beauty that we have, that is Ahlul Bayt alayhim afdhalu salatu wassalam, that we can go through these with Ahlul Bayt alayhim afdhalu salatu wassalam. We have many stories. One of them, the story of Imam Hasan Almodarresi alayhi afdhalu salatu wassalam, where a person came from Sham and he said to the Imam, "Are you Hasan ibn Ali?" Imam Ali afdhalu salatu wassalam said to him, "Yes, I am Hasan ibn Ali." And this person who came from Sham, he started to scream at the Imam. He started to abuse the Imam. And the companions who were sitting around the Imam, they wanted to, reply back to him, or better yet, kick him out of the mosque. But the Imam told them to sit down and be quiet. He's talking to me, and I will reply back to him, and I will deal with him. So when the person finished, and the Imam looked at him, the hadith says that the Imam ibtasama fi wajhi. The Imam smiled in his face. And see, brothers and sisters, sometimes a smile can do so much that the Imam Ali afdhalu salatu wassalam smiled at him. When he smiled, the person looked at the Imam. I insulted this man, yet he smiles at me. And the Imam said to him, "It looks like you're a stranger, gharib, fa'awaynak. It looks like you're a stranger. We will give you shelter. Or you are hungry, we'll give you food. Or you are thirsty, we will quench your thirst." So you see the approach of the Imam Ali afdhalu salatu wassalam, that is different than other people's approach. Sometimes a person says one word that was out of line to you, and you become furious and you want to show your power to them. But the Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba, he did not do that. He was, with all his beautiful hilm, and inshallah we'll talk about this, and his forgiveness, he not only, he said, he didn't come back to him and say to him, "This is you and your family." He also said to him, "We will give you shelter if you are homeless, if you are a stranger. If you're hungry, we will give you food. If you are thirsty, we will quench your thirst." So let's continue with the lesson. ومن آثاره على الإنسان انطلاقه بالشتم والفحش وقبح الكلام بحيث يخجل الإنسان منه إذا كان هادئا. So what does this mean? It means that when he becomes angry, he starts to بالشتم, use abusive language. He starts to curse. والفحش وقبح الكلام. You and you and you and you. You and your mother. You and your father. That here says that if you later on show it to him, when he's in a status of calmness, he's calm, he comes to his senses and he says, "No, this is what I didn't mean that." That's why many of the times when a person after anger, he becomes, his normal self, he asks for forgiveness. He asks for forgiveness because what's happening right there is scanning with whatever he said, and he says, no, that wasn't right, that what he said to him. That wasn't right what he said to her. So this is another part of it. ومن آثاره على الأعضاء ضرب الآخرين والهجوم عليهم وقد يصل إلى حد قتل الآخرين ولكن بعد فتور الغضب يعلم الإنسان عظيم ما جنى على نفسه. And these are many stories out there. We don't have the time to go through all of them, but one of the stories that one of the scholars was mentioning was this young man when he became angry with his friend, with his wife, who was pregnant at the time. He became so angry that he punched her. And unfortunately, that led for her to miscarriage. And that led for him to go to prison. And that led for him to, you know, his future is doomed. And because of moments, and he was saying that to the scholar, that because of moments, Sayyidina, I became angry and I lost control. And she said something, I said something, and then we became so much out of line. Because she said one thing about my mother, she said one thing about my family, she said something about me, and I punched her, and that led for her to miscarriage. And I killed the child. I killed my own baby. So moments, brothers, moments that leads for eternity or lifetime of regret. And it's not worth it. It's not worth it for a person to go through this. So ومن آثاره على القلب الحسد والحقد على الآخرين. And if you look at it, الحسد والحقد على الآخرين. Hasad is jealousy. Jealousy. And inshallah, on one morning we'll speak about jealousy. That leads him to jealousy. Brothers, it's not hard for a person to deal with this. It's not hard. It's not impossible as well. It needs practice. It needs for you to sit down, and especially now, and that is a time of reflection. Have a piece of paper in front of you with a pen, and go through what is a weakness that you have and what is a strong point that you have, and see what you can do. Some people now, they saying, well, I'm in a lockdown, I'm in quarantine, self-isolation. I take a moment to learn a new language. I take a moment to learn more about Ahlul Bayt alayhim salatu wassalam. And this is what you brothers and sisters are doing now. That you're taking the opportunity, you seizing the moment. And I am very proud of each and every one of you that you're taking the opportunity, you are seizing the moment. So now if a person sees that weakness that he has, I'm an angry person. What can I do with this? What can I do with it? Do I keep becoming angry, losing control of myself, or can I resolve it? And is it going to be overnight? Definitely not. It's going to take time. It's going to take practice. If I become angry, I get up and I perform wudu. If I become angry, I sit down and I recite one surah of the Quran. In the end of the day, if a person comes to this sense, he comes to this understanding, it's not that important for me to become that angry. He will never become angry anymore. It's not that important for me to become that angry. He will not become any angry anymore. So, what is the second one? وَمِنْ آثَارِهِ عَلَى الْقَلْبِ. And this is what's saying the athar, the impact that he has on the heart. العزم على إفشاء سر الآخرين. Now a person told you a secret, but when you become angry, you come and you tell the secret to such and such, to this person and that person, and you become a person who إفشاء السر الآخرين. You told the secret of a brother or a sister. Number 3, وحتى إذا كتم الإنسان غيظه لعدم استطاعته الاستمرار في الغضب تحول ذلك إلى حقد دفين في قلبه يؤدي به إلى كره المغضوب عليه واستغباته وهتك أسراره وقطيعته والاستهزاء به. So those are the athar, the result of this. Inshallah, in the next lesson, I'll give you the translation of it as well, of this, a brief summary of it, inshallah, of what these are. من آثار الغضب ومن آثاره على اللسان ومن آثاره على الأعضاء. And inshallah, we work together to make the most out of these lessons. So one of the hadith of Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam is the Imam who he said, ما من جرعة يجرعها العبد أحب إلى الله من جرعة غيظ يكظمها عبد ما كظمها عبد إلا ملأ جوفه أمنا وأمانة. This is in Kitab al-Kafi from Imam Ja'far ibn Muhammad al-Sadiq, when he says that the best of the abd habbu ila Allah, one of the best deeds a person does is that he becomes yakdhum al-ghadab, or yakdhumuha abdun ma kadhamaha abd illa mala'u jawfahu amnan wa amana. That he calms himself down and if he forgives the other person to what he has done. علاج الغضب, inshallah, in the next lesson we will go through this. It's a lengthy part of the lesson, and inshallah we start with other lessons as well. Another hadith of Imam Ja'far ibn Muhammad al-Sadiq is al-ghadab yurdi sahibahu wa yubdi ma'ayibah. So ghadab, anger, will expose a person in front of others, that he loses control, and whatever he has done, he exposes them in front of others to the point that he's not going to be respected once more in the community. And this is the unfortunate result of a person who becomes angry. Of course, there are positive sides of ghadab and there are negative sides of ghadab. The negative one is that the one we talked about, and that is for a person to become abusive and says such and such that are not right. This is the negative side, or he becomes physically harming others. This is not a good side. This is a negative side of it. But there are positive side of it. What are the positive side? That he takes the anger and he aims it at something that is positive. That is positive. What does that mean? It means that ولكن المحمود أن يغضب الإنسان في أحوال معينة. And there are, of course, a couple of them. One of them is يغضب حماية لدينه خصوصا إذا استهزأ أحد به. If a person he mocks your religion, then becoming angry here, right way becoming angry is good. For a person to become angry when his religion, Islam or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or the progeny, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, were abused. Here, this is a positive side of anger. He shows that anger, it's all right for him to do such a thing. But of course, there are a scale of it, of how he exposes that, he shows that. It's very important of how he does it. He doesn't just become like that, I'm angry and I want to become furious and destroy such and such. No, it's not this. It's a person who becomes ghadab, for example, of Nabi Musa ibn Imran, alayhi afdhalu salati wassalam, used to become angry. But it wasn't for himself, it was for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nabi Musa, when he came down off the mountain and he saw that the Israelites, they are worshipping a goat, he came to his brother Aaron, and he was very angry, furious. Why? Because he saw that Bani Israel have lost the right way, and now they are going to what is now a polytheism, and he was very furious with this. It's not for himself, it's for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not for his desires, it's for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala desires. Number two, يغضب لعرضه غيرة منه وشهامة وحمية. For your wife, for your sister, for your better half, for your mother, you become angry here if something happens to them. If someone abuses them, or if someone has, it comes back to them and he harms them. This is a positive side of it. A person can show his anger, but how he shows the anger, inshallah, we will speak about that. Number three, يغضب في حرب أعداء الله والرسول والأئمة الأطهار. يغضب في حرب, when someone has abused, as we said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Holy Quran, Ahl al-Bayt alayhim afdhalu salati wassalam, or his religion. You cannot be silent if someone abuses your religion and they use foul language about your religion. Number four, يغضب لإصلاح اللئيم والفاسد. يغضب لإصلاح اللئيم والفاسد. And here it shows that when a person does haram, it's not because for your own desire you want to expose them or you become angry for them, is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inshallah, tomorrow, same time, 7:30, my time, 7:30 a.m. in Sydney. We will continue with these lessons, Akhlaq wal-Adab al-Islamiyya of Hayat Muhammad al-Amin, Islamic ethics and etiquettes in detail, inshallah. And we go through the Q&As. So one of the brothers asked, does a person gain akhlaq by doing religious acts, or does he has the tawfiq to do religious acts because he is a good akhlaq? It becomes with practice, as I said. Akhlaq, it doesn't come overnight. You don't, come with akhlaq without practice. It needs patience. It needs for you to go through what Ahl al-Bayt alayhim afdalus salati wassalam did. وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ shows that we have the best of role models. And Ahl al-Bayt are the best of role models. Inshallah, we will speak about many stories that comes to them. They were abused, Ahl al-Bayt. They were spat on. They were unfortunately, sadly, they were beaten, but the way they treated people was unbelievable. That they showed their most respect to them, even though they were not believers, some of them. They were forgiving. They never became angry. Starting with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to Imam al-Hujjah alayhi salatu wassalam, there are great examples, and they are the greatest of role models that we have. This was question number one. And inshallah, of course, we will go through, this is our first lesson. Inshallah, in the subsequent lessons, we will go through the ways that we can go into becoming better in akhlaq. Another question says, yes, about the book. One of the sisters is asking about the book. I mentioned the name of the book. The book is a wonderful book. If you can download it online, and inshallah, I asked the brothers to put a link of it on the Telegram page, and you can download it from the website. There are many websites that have it. It's a PDF file. It's called Akhlaq wal-Adab al-Islamiyya. Akhlaq wal-Adab al-Islamiyya by Hayat Muhammad al-Amin. It's a wonderful book, and as I mentioned in the beginning of the lesson, it's a thick book of our ethics and our etiquette in Islam, and that shows how detailed Islam is in when it comes to akhlaq and it comes to ethics, etiquettes. We are a religion that is complete. We have the religion that is complete from every side. And this shows you how complete it is. And of course, this is a summary of some of the topics. There are much more out there, but this is just a summary of what we have about ethics, about etiquette. It's called Akhlaq wa Adab al-Islamiyya. Another question says, is there an English version? No, I haven't seen an English version. I've been teaching them for many years, and I translated myself. Inshallah, from tomorrow, I will put some notes that I have. You can see them. They're in English, some of the hadith, and the Charter of Rights, of course, Risalat al-Huquq, Imam Zain al-Abidin. There are many versions out there that are translated. But with this book, you might find some hadith here and there that are translated, but not the book itself. Another question says, it's all about the book. No, there is no English version, unfortunately. Inshallah, it will be written down. The page about anger is 142. 142 about anger. Al-Ghadab, this is the one. 142 about Ghadab. If you download the PDF file, you might find the updated version. I have that version. For if you give me a moment, I tell you how many, which page that is. That is Akhlaq wal Adab al Islamiyya as well. It's a wonderful book, as I mentioned, wonderful, wonderful book of Akhlaq, Adab, and this is a great time that we can go through many of these. So the updated version is Akhlaq wal Adab al Islamiyya, authored by Abdullah Al Hashimi, and Ghadab is also page 140, I think 44, 45. Yes, 144, 45. Inshallah, I'll put the link of the book on the Telegram page. You can download from there. Two more questions, and we will end this lesson. Yeah, well, there is a question by one of the sisters that said it's very difficult to ignore mean comments from the mother-in-law, the husband. What is the best way to get over the anger? Look, as I mentioned, brothers and sisters, we all take, you know, very defensive and offensive when it becomes mean comments. We become angry because we think, you know, it's the end of the day. That's what makes us angry. When we think it's the end of the day by one comment, this is when we become angry. But if you don't think of it as this is the end of my life because she said that or he said that, then I can become, you know, a better person by suppressing my anger, by calming down. You know, if a child now comes to you and he or she abuses you, you don't become angry. Why? Because you say, well, it doesn't matter, it's a child. Why? Because you know that it's not that significant for you to become that angry. It's not that important what he said, what she says. It should be the same with everything else. Where a person is being told by such and such people something very bad, he has to become to the senses for a moment, because anger comes in seconds, sometimes milliseconds, that you lose control, and that leads for you to go into a life of regret. But if you take that for a moment and you think, how important is this comment? Is it going to really change my life? Is it really true? Is it not true? You know, what she said to me was so bad that I'm not going to be seen good by others. You know, I'm going to be looked down upon, or I'm going to be belittled on my life. No, it's not going to be anything like that. The way we attract with one other people, especially in this time that we are mostly at home, is we go back to Ahlul Bayt alayhim salatu wasalam. We have a great example, and inshallah in the other lessons we will mention how to deal with this. As I mentioned, Alajul Ghadab is the lesson, inshallah. Tomorrow we'll go through it. Another question is, it's all about the book. Most of the questions is about the book, and as I mentioned, inshallah, I'll put the link on the Telegram page, and inshallah I'll put it tomorrow on this platform as well. One more question, and yeah, it's mostly about how to deal with anger, and this is what we'll mention inshallah tomorrow. I had a difficulty logging in today. As you see, I'm in my office. I'm fortunate enough to be close to, you know, my office being close to my house. So I'm quarantined as well. I'm in lockdown, but I can escape here, back and forth, come to the office early in the morning and do some work. So inshallah tomorrow there's not going to be any difficulty logging in, and we will go through in summary of what we did today for the brothers that missed out today, and for the ones that are here. Inshallah, we will continue with what we have mentioned today and continue the lesson. If the time is good, 7:30 in the morning for me is good. In This is Sydney time, of course, and I don't know all the brothers, if they are brothers and sisters, if they're you know happy with the time, we can continue with the time. Okay, inshallah tomorrow I have the questions. It's mostly about the book. I can see here mostly about the book and how to suppress the anger. Inshallah, I take a screenshot of it and will address most of the questions tomorrow, inshallah. I conclude with dua al-faraj. إن شاء الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كل وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين يا رب الحسين بحق الحسين اشفي صدر الحسين بظهور الحجة. Stay safe, brothers and sisters. Inshallah, we see you tomorrow.